Commander Ethan Cole stood at the edge of the landing platform and watched the alien city stretch before him like a dream. Towers of white crystal rose into a purple sky. Ships floated between buildings without making a sound. Everything was clean and perfect and cold. He had survived many dangerous things in his 32 years of life. He had fought in the siege of Europa when enemy forces surrounded his unit for 19 days. He had pulled survivors from the burning wreckage of Station Helios. He had completed 17 diplomatic missions that most people said were impossible, but nothing had prepared him for the Velshan. Earth's colony on Viridian 7 was dying. Raiders attacked their ships. Pirates burned their crops. The small human settlement had no army strong enough to protect itself. So the colony leaders made a desperate choice. They asked the mighty Velshan Empire for help. The Velshan were one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They had ruled 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years. Their technology was so advanced that humans could barely understand it. Their people lived for thousands of years, growing wiser and more powerful with each passing century. They agreed to protect the human colony, but they wanted something in return. A human officer would serve as personal liaison too. Princess Alindra Velshan, for one full galactic cycle. The princess was third in line to the imperial throne. She had requested to study humans up close. The Empire always gave its royalty what they wanted. Ethan was chosen for the job. His commanders told him it was an honor. His friends told him it was a death sentence. Aliens did not like humans very much. They thought humans were too emotional, too unpredictable, too primitive. A human serving in the Imperial Palace would face hatred from every direction, but Ethan went anyway. The colony needed protection. If babysitting an alien princess would save thousands of human lives, he would do it without complaint. He expected to find a cold and distant royal who would treat him like an interesting pet. He expected formal meetings and strict protocols and endless boredom. He did not expect to find Princess Alindra standing barefoot in her garden, digging in the soil with her bare hands. She looked up when he arrived. Her skin was pale silver, almost glowing in the soft light. Her eyes were the color of liquid mercury, and they studied him with open curiosity. Long white hair fell past her shoulders like a waterfall of moonlight. She was the most beautiful being he had ever seen. "You are the human," she said. Her voice was soft and musical. Ethan bowed deeply. "Commander Ethan Cole, Your Highness. I am honored to serve." She tilted her head and looked at him the way a scientist might look at a new discovery. "You are smaller than I expected, and your eyes have color in them. How strange." Over the following weeks, Ethan learned that Princess Alindra was not like other Velshan. While her people valued cold logic and emotional control, she asked questions about feelings. While other aliens dismissed humans as primitive creatures, she called them fascinating. She wanted to know everything about Earth. She asked about oceans and mountains and forests. She asked about music and art and poetry. She asked about this strange human concept called hope. "Your species lives such short lives," she said one evening as they walked through the crystal gardens. 80 years, perhaps 100 if you are lucky. "My grandmother is 9,000 years old and still considers herself young. How do you bear it?" Ethan thought about the question carefully. "I think that is why we feel things so deeply, Your Highness. We do not have time to waste. Every moment matters because we have so few of them." She stopped walking and stared at him with those silver eyes. "You burn brightly because you burn briefly," something like that. "I think I envy you," she whispered, and something in her voice made his heart beat faster. As months passed, Ethan became her constant shadow. He stood beside her during council meetings where ancient lords dismissed humans as foolish children. He protected her during 2 assassination attempts from rival noble houses who wanted her family's power. He ate meals with her and walked with her and listened to her thoughts. Late into the night, the Velshan court did not approve. They whispered about the princess spending too much time with her human pet. They said she was lowering herself by treating him as an equal. Some said she had lost her mind. But Alindra did not care what they said. "They do not understand," she told Ethan one night. "They have lived so long that they have forgotten how to feel. They call your emotions weakness. I call them strength." She touched his hand gently, and the contact sent electricity through his entire body. "You stood between me and an assassin's blade," she said. "You did not hesitate. You did not calculate your chances of survival. You simply acted because you wanted to protect me. No Velshan would have done that. Any human would have done the same, Your Highness. That is precisely my point." Ethan knew he was in dangerous territory. He was falling in love with an alien princess, which was possibly the stupidest thing any human had ever done. She was royalty. He was a soldier from a primitive species. The gap between them was wider than the space between stars, but when she laughed at his jokes, when she sought out his company, when she looked at him like he was the most interesting thing in the universe, he could not help himself. He kept his feelings hidden. He was professional and respectful, and never crossed any lines. But every day, hiding the truth became harder, then everything changed. A messenger arrived at the palace with news that shook the entire empire. The conjunction of 3 moons was approaching. This sacred event happened only once every 1,000 years. And according to ancient tradition, any unmarried princess must choose a consort before the moons aligned. Alindra had to pick a husband. The emperor himself had confirmed it. The tradition could not be refused. Noble suitors began arriving from 12 different star systems. Lords and princes and highborn warriors came to compete for her hand. They brought gifts worth more than entire planets. They commanded fleets of warships and armies of soldiers. Ethan watched them arrive, felt his heart breaking slowly. His time at her side was ending. Soon, she would belong to one of these powerful aliens, and he would return to Earth with nothing but memories of the princess he could never have. He told himself it was for the best. He told himself he had always known this would happen. He told himself that a human and a Velshan could never be together. But late at night, alone in his quarters, Commander Ethan Cole allowed himself to feel the pain. And he wondered if Princess Alindra felt anything at all. The suitors were everything. Ethan was not. Lord Caven of House Mordeth arrived first. His warship blocked out the sun as it descended onto the palace landing platform. He was tall and broad, with silver skin darker than most Velshan and eyes that burned like red stars. His family controlled half the military forces in the empire. When he walked, soldiers trembled. Prince Marath of the 7th dynasty came next. His bloodline stretched back 40,000 years to the very founding of the empire. He wore robes that cost more than Earth's entire yearly budget. Ancient servants carried his gifts on floating platforms, which won a treasure beyond human imagination. High Archon Salus arrived without a ship. He simply appeared in the throne room as if stepping through an invisible door. His people had mastered the secrets of space and time. He could reshape matter with his thoughts. When he spoke, reality itself seemed to listen. Ethan watched them all from the shadows. He stood in his simple human uniform, while alien lords paraded their wealth and power. He had nothing to offer except his service and his heart. And only one of those things mattered to the Velshan. The palace transformed into a stage for competition. Every day brought new feasts and ceremonies. The suitors displayed their achievements. They gave speeches about their noble histories. They presented gifts that made the court gasp with wonder. Lord Caven gave Alindra a moon, an actual moon, rich with precious metals, orbiting a planet in his territory. He promised to name it after her. Prince Morath gave her a library containing the complete history of the universe, stored in a crystal that fit in her palm. High Archon Salus gave her a flower that would bloom forever. Drawing energy from the fabric of space itself, Ethan had nothing to give. So he simply stood at his post and did his job. But he watched Alindra carefully. He saw how she smiled politely at each suitor. He saw how she thanked them gracefully for their gifts. He saw how she said all the right words and made all the right gestures. And he saw how the light in her silver eyes was slowly dying. She began finding excuses to keep him near. Diplomatic briefings that lasted for hours when they should have taken minutes. Security assessments that required his personal attention. Evening walks through the gardens that stretched longer and longer each night. One evening, she stopped in the middle of a moonlit path and turned to face him. Your people marry for love, she said. The words sounded almost like an accusation. Sometimes, Your Highness, when we are lucky, such an inefficient system. No consideration for political advantage. No calculation of genetic compatibility. Just feelings. Ethan smiled softly. It is not a perfect system. But when it works, there is nothing in the universe more powerful. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. I feel like a transaction. Like a piece of property being sold to the highest bidder. They do not want me. They want what I represent. Power, status, connection to the throne, Your Highness, Alendra. She looked at him with those mercury eyes. When we are alone, please call me Alendra. His heart pounded in his chest. Alendra. Any of those lords would be lucky to have you. Not because of your title, because of who you are. And who am I, Ethan? A princess who digs in gardens and asks strange questions and prefers the company of a human to her own kind. My people think I am broken. Then your people are fools. The words escaped before he could stop them. For a terrible moment, he thought he had gone too far. Speaking about the Velshan, that way to their own princess, could be considered an insult worthy of death. But Alindra laughed. It was a real laugh, bright and warm and full of life. The sound made everything else in the universe seem less important. You are the only one who speaks to me like a person, she said. Everyone else speaks to the title, to the crown, to the power. But you see me? I have always seen you. Their eyes met and something passed between them that neither one could name. The moment stretched like honey, sweet and slow and golden. Then voices approached from the palace, and the spell was broken. The next morning, Lord Caven requested a private meeting with Ethan. They met in one of the smaller halls. Far from watching eyes and listening ears, Caven towered over the human commander. His red eyes burned with controlled fury. I've noticed how the princess looks at you, Caven said. His voice was cold and sharp as a blade. I have noticed how often she seeks your company. I am her liaison, my lord. It is my duty to do not play games with me, human. Caven stepped closer, and Ethan could feel the power radiating from him like heat from a fire. You are a guest in our empire, a representative of a primitive species that has barely learned to travel between stars. Remember your place. Ethan did not step back. My place is wherever the princess needs me to be. Caven's eyes narrowed. You are either very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both. Let me make something clear. The princess will choose a Velshan consort. The only question is which one. If you interfere with that process, your colony will lose our protection. Your people will die. All because one human could not control his feelings. He leaned down until his face was inches from Ethan's. Walk away. Go back to your quarters. Remember that you are nothing more than a curiosity. A pet. An amusement that has overstayed its welcome. Ethan met his gaze without flinching. Is that a threat, my lord? It is a promise. Caven turned and walked away, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts. That night, whispers spread through the court. The human was forgetting his place. He was getting too close to the princess. Earth's colony should lose its protection for allowing such disrespect. 3 days later, the Emperor himself summoned Ethan to his private chambers. The ruler of 1,000 worlds sat on a simple chair, looking tired and old despite his ageless face. He studied Ethan for a long moment before speaking. You have served my daughter well, Commander Cole. She speaks highly of you. Too highly, perhaps. Your Majesty, I know what you would never do. I also know what hearts do when they want something badly enough. The Emperor sighed. Your presence has become diplomatically inconvenient. The suitors are complaining. The court is whispering. For the sake of your colony, for the sake of your people, I suggest you return to Earth. And if I refuse, then I cannot guarantee the safety of Viridian 7. The Emperor's voice was heavy with regret. I am sorry, Commander, truly. But this is how empires work. Ethan bowed stiffly. I understand, Your Majesty. I will leave tomorrow. That night, he packed his few belongings and prepared to say goodbye to everything that mattered. The colony would be safe. His people would survive. That was what mattered. But his heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The night before his departure, Ethan could not sleep. He lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling and thought about all the things he should have said, all the moments he should have stolen, all the chances he had let pass by because he was afraid. He was a soldier. He had faced death more times than he could count. But the thought of telling Alendra how he felt had terrified him more than any enemy, and now it was too late. Around midnight, he gave up trying to sleep. He dressed in his simple clothes and walked out into the palace corridors. The guards nodded as he passed. They knew he was leaving tomorrow. Some of them almost looked sorry. His feet carried him to the crystal colonnade without any conscious decision. This was where he and Alendra had spent so many evenings together. This was where she had asked him about Earth's sunsets, and he had struggled to describe colors that did not exist on her world. This was where he had fallen in love with her, slowly and completely, and hopelessly. The colonnade was empty. Pillars of pure crystal stretched up toward the sky, catching the light of the 3 moons that were slowly moving toward their ancient alignment. In 2 days, they would form a perfect triangle in the sky. In 2 days, Alindra would announce her choice of consort. In 2 days, she would belong to someone else forever. Ethan walked to the balcony at the far end of the colonnade. This was their spot. Their private place. He stood where she had stood so many times, looking out at the silver city and the purple sky and the stars. That seemed close enough to touch. He thought about his life on Earth. He thought about his family and friends and the simple human pleasures he had left behind. He thought about the colony on Viridian 7 that would survive because of his sacrifice. But mostly, he thought about her. He thought about her laugh and her curiosity and her silver eyes that saw him when no one else did. He thought about the way she tilted her head when she was thinking, the way she touched his hand when she wanted his attention, the way she made him feel like he was the only person in the universe. The moons hung heavy in the sky, beautiful and distant and cold. "I wish I could wed her," Ethan whispered. The words were not meant for anyone. They were just the truth, escaping from his heart into the empty night. A confession to the stars, a prayer to a universe that did not care. "I wish I could wed her," he said again, letting the pain flow through the words. The single word froze him where he stood. He turned slowly, afraid that he was dreaming. Afraid that the loneliness had finally broken his mind, Alindra stepped out from behind one of the crystal pillars. She was still wearing her ceremonial gown from tonight's festivities. Gems sparkled on her dress like captured stars. Her white hair flowed around her shoulders like liquid moonlight, and her silver eyes were bright with tears. "The Velshan sense of hearing is 4 times more sensitive than humans realize," she said softly. She walked toward him, each step slow and careful. "And I have been listening for your voice in crowds for months now, Your Highness." His voice cracked. "Alendra, I did not know you were there. I should not have said, 'Say it again.'" Her voice trembled with emotion. "Not to the moons. Not to the silence. To me." She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could see the tears shining on her silver cheeks. She was the most powerful person he had ever met, and she was crying because of words he had whispered to the empty night. Ethan. His name on her lips was the most beautiful sound in the universe. "Please, say it again." He looked into her eyes and let go of all his fear, all his doubt, all the reasons why this was impossible and foolish and doomed to fail. "I wish I could wed you, Alendra. I have wished it for longer than I should admit. I know I have nothing to offer. I know I am just a human with a short life and no power and no importance. But I love you. I have loved you since the day I found you digging in your garden with dirt on your royal hands." The tears flowed freely down her face now, but she was smiling. Smiling like the sun rising after 1,000 years of darkness. "My answer remains yes," she said. "My answer will always be yes." She reached up and touched his face with her silver fingers. The contact sent warmth flooding through his entire body. "I have been waiting for you to say something," she whispered. I have been hoping and praying to gods I do not believe in. Every night I thought tonight will be the night, he tells me. And every night you stayed silent, and I thought perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps he does not feel what I feel. I was afraid. Ethan covered her hand with his own. I was afraid of what it would cost. Your reputation? Your position. The alliance between our peoples. I do not care about any of that. She stepped closer until there was no space between them. I care about you. I care about waking up every morning knowing you are near. I care about growing old with someone who sees me, truly sees me, for who I am. You will not grow old, he said. You will live for thousands of years. I will be gone in a few decades, and I will treasure every single day. Her voice was fierce with determination. I would rather have 50 years with you than 50,000 years with someone who looks at me and sees only a crown. She pulled him close and pressed her forehead against his. Their breath mingled in the cool night air. I choose you, Ethan Cole. I choose the human who makes me laugh. I choose the soldier who stood between me and death without hesitation. I choose the man who whispers his heart to the moons because he is too kind to burden me with his feelings. The court will never accept this. The court can adapt or be silent. The suitors will be furious. Let them rage. Your father will. She kissed him. It was soft and gentle and perfect. The taste of starlight and hope and impossible dreams coming true. When she pulled back, both of them were trembling. My father will understand eventually, she said. And if he does not, then I will make him understand. You are worth more than any alliance. You are worth more than any tradition. Somewhere in the distance, alarms began to scream. The moment shattered like glass. Alindra stepped back, her eyes wide with sudden fear. They have noticed I am gone from the ceremony, she said. Ethan, we need 2 footsteps thundered in the corridors. Voices shouted orders. Light flooded the colonnade as guards poured in from every entrance. They found the princess and the humans standing together. Hands intertwined, faces still close enough to kiss. Lord Caven pushed through the crowd, his red eyes blazing with fury. I knew it, he snarled. I knew the human was corrupting you. He turned to the guards. Arrest him. He has violated the sanctity of the royal selection. The punishment is death. The guards moved forward. Weapons drawn, and Princess Alindra stepped in front of Ethan, shielding him with her body. Touch him, she said, her voice cold as winter, and I will destroy you all. The throne room was filled with chaos, lords and ladies from across. The Empire had gathered to witness the scandal of the century. The third princess of the Velshan had chosen a human. A primitive, a member of a species that had barely learned to travel among the stars. Ethan stood in the center of the room, surrounded by guards. They had taken his weapons. They had bound his hands with energy cuffs that burned against his skin. They had marched him here like a criminal going to his execution, perhaps. That was exactly what he was. Lord Caven stood at the front of the crowd, his deep voice filling the chamber with accusations. This human has committed the greatest offense imaginable, Caven declared. He has seduced the imperial princess. He has corrupted her mind with his primitive emotions. He has made a mockery of our most sacred traditions. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience. Ancient faces looked at Ethan with disgust and contempt.
Ow.
The punishment for such crimes is clear, Kavan continued. Death for the human. And the protection treaty with their pathetic colony should be revoked immediately. Let them face the raiders alone. Let them learn what happens when lesser species forget their place. More voices joined the chorus. The humans had always been trouble. The humans were too emotional, too unpredictable. Bringing them into the Empire had been a mistake from the beginning. Ethan looked around the room at the beings who wanted him dead. Some were thousands of years old. Some commanded armies that could destroy entire planets. All of them thought he was nothing more than an insect that had crawled too close to their precious princess. On the raised platform at the far end of the room, Emperor Velshan sat on his throne. His face was like a mask, showing nothing of his thoughts. Beside him stood Alindra, her silver skin pale with fear and anger, guards blocking her from reaching Ethan. Prince Marath stepped forward, his ancient robes sweeping across the floor. I say we execute him publicly. Make an example. Show the galaxy what happens when primitives reach above their station. High Archon Salus nodded slowly. The human has disrupted the natural order. The princess must choose a proper consort. Her feelings have been manipulated by this creature's emotional tricks. I have not been manipulated. Alendra's voice cut through the noise like a blade. I made my choice freely. I love him. Laughter filled the throne room. Cruel, mocking laughter from beings who had forgotten what love truly meant. Love, Lord Cavan sneered? A human disease. An infection of the mind. We will cure you of it, princess. Once this creature is dead, you will return to your senses. The guards moved closer to Ethan, preparing for the execution order, and then Ethan did something no one expected. He laughed. The sound was strange and out of place in the ancient hall. The guards hesitated. The nobles fell silent. Even the emperor raised an eyebrow. You think this is amusing, human? Cavan demanded. No, Ethan said. I think it is sad. Look at all of you. The most powerful beings in the galaxy. The masters of 1,000 worlds. And you are afraid of feelings. He stepped forward, and the guards were too surprised to stop him. You call humanity primitive. You are right. We are young. We have not built empires that span the stars. We have not unlocked the secrets of immortality. We have not conquered time and space. His voice grew stronger with each word. But we have learned something that you have forgotten. Time means nothing if it is empty. 1,000 years of cold alliances and political marriages, what have they given you? Your noble houses plot against each other. Your princes scheme for power. Your ancient families tear at each other's throats for advantages that will not matter in another 1,000 years. He turned slowly. Meeting the eyes of every being in the room, you have lived so long that you have forgotten what it means to feel. You call our emotions weakness, but I have seen your weakness. I have seen how you fear anything you cannot control. I have seen how you hate anything that reminds you of what you have lost. Lord Cavan's face twisted with rage. Silence him. Let him speak. Every head turned toward the emperor. The ruler of the Velshan Empire was watching Ethan with something that might have been curiosity. Continue, human. Ethan looked directly at Alendra. Her silver eyes were shining with tears, but also with hope. I cannot offer your daughter centuries, he said to the emperor. I cannot offer fleets or armies or ancient bloodlines. I can only offer a human lifetime. 60 or 70 years, if I am lucky. Took another step forward. But I can promise that every single one of those years will be devoted to making her happy. Every morning, she will wake up knowing that someone loves her. Not her title. Not her power. Not what she represents her. The woman who digs in gardens and asks strange questions and laughs at jokes that her people think are beneath her. His voice broke slightly, but he pushed forward. Maybe that is worth more than eternity spent with someone who sees her as a stepping stone to power. Maybe a short life filled with love is better than a long life filled with emptiness. The throne room was completely silent. Prince Morith broke the stillness with a cruel laugh. Pretty words from a creature that lives no longer than a mayfly. This changes nothing. He must die. Lord Cavan drew his ceremonial sword. I will perform the execution myself. It would be my pleasure. But the emperor raised his hand, and everyone froze. My daughter made her choice before the conjunction, the emperor said slowly. The ancient law is clear. The princess selects her consort before the moons align. She has done so. According to our own traditions, her choice must stand, cannot be serious. Cavan exploded. He is a human, and she has chosen him. The emperor's voice hardened. Anyone who challenges this challenges the crown itself. Is that what you wish to do, Lord Cavan? The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a blade. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Cavan sheathed his sword with a sharp motion. Very well, he said. His voice was controlled, but fury burned in his red eyes. If you will not see justice done through law, then I invoke the right of demonstration. Gasps echoed through the throne room. The ancient right Cavan continued, a cruel smile spreading across his face. Let the human prove his worth through trial. 3 challenges to demonstrate that he deserves to stand beside our princess. If he passes, I will accept the match. If he fails, he dies, and the selection continues properly. The emperor looked troubled. The rite of demonstration is meant for Velshan warriors. The trials would kill a human, then he will die proving his unworthiness. Khyven turned to Ethan. Lest you wish to withdraw your claim to the princess and leave our empire in disgrace, your colony will lose its protection, but at least you will live. Ethan looked at Alindra. She was shaking her head, begging him with her eyes to refuse. The trials would be impossible. No human had ever survived them. He would be throwing away his life for nothing, but he had spent his entire career doing impossible things, and he would rather die trying to earn her than live knowing. He had given up. I accept, he said. Lord. Khyven smiled like a predator who had just cornered his prey. Then let the trials begin. First trial was called the Endurance. They put Ethan in a chamber deep beneath the palace. The walls were black metal. There were no windows, no doors that he could see. Just a small room and his own heartbeat and the knowledge that he would probably die here. The trial began without warning. Gravity increased. Slowly at first, then faster and faster. Ethan felt his bones creaking under the pressure. Every breath became a battle. Moving his arms felt like lifting mountains. Then the air began to disappear. The chamber was designed to crush, suffocate at the same time. Velshan warriors could survive it for hours. Their bodies were built to endure punishment that would kill a human in minutes. Ethan lasted 11 hours. He did not know how. When the gravity pressed him flat against the floor, he thought of Alindra. When his lungs burned for air, he thought of her laugh. When his body begged him to quit, he remembered the way she had looked at him in the crystal colonnade. He would not give up. He could not. She had chosen him, and he would prove that her choice was right. When the trial finally ended, guards had to carry him out. He could not walk. He could barely breathe, but he was alive. Lord Khyven watched with narrowed eyes. The human should have died in the first hour. Something was wrong. The second trial was called the Wisdom. They placed Ethan in a machine that connected directly to his mind. A telepathic maze, the oldest test of Velshan mental strength. The maze was designed to trap minds forever. Countless prisoners had entered and never returned, their bodies living but their thoughts lost in endless corridors. The Velshans solved the maze through cold logic. They suppressed all emotion and calculated their way through the twisting paths. Feelings only led to dead ends and infinite loops. Ethan could not do that. He did not know how to turn off his emotions. He had never been taught to think like a machine, so he did the opposite. Inside the maze, everything was gray and empty and the same. Corridors stretched in every direction without end. Each path looked identical. Each turn led to another turn that looked exactly like the last. Ethan thought about Alindra. He pictured her face, her silver eyes, the sound of her voice when she said his name, the warmth of her hand in his. He let the love fill him up until there was no room for fear or confusion, and then he simply walked toward her. He did not calculate. He did not plan. He just moved in the direction that felt right. Following his heart through the endless gray, the ancient machine had never encountered anything like it. It was built to trap logical minds in logical loops. It had no defense against someone who navigated by motion instead of thought. Ethan emerged from the maze in half the expected time. The nobles watching were stunned. Lord Khyven demanded that the machine be checked for errors. It was working perfectly. He cheated somehow, Khyven insisted. No primitive could solve the maze so quickly. The trial masters confirmed the result. Ethan had passed. One challenge remained. The third trial was combat. Lord Khyven stepped forward before anyone else could volunteer. His red eyes gleamed with anticipation. I will administer the final test myself, he announced. A simple duel. The human must land a single blow against me. If he cannot, he fails. The term seemed almost generous. Ethan only had to hit him once. Just once, and the trial would be complete. But Lord Caven had been training in martial combat for 3,000 years. His reflexes were faster than human eyes could track. His strength could shatter stone. In his entire long life, no opponent had ever landed a blow he did not allow. They faced each other in the training arena. Thousands of Velshan watched from the surrounding seats. The Emperor and Princess sat in the royal box, their faces tense with worry. A bell rang, and Caven attacked. He moved like lightning. His first strike shattered Ethan's guard and sent him flying across the arena. Ethan hit the wall hard enough to crack the stone. Before he could recover, Caven was there again. A kick to the ribs. A punch that broke his left arm. A sweep that dropped him to the ground. "Stay down," Caven said. "Accept your defeat with dignity." Ethan pushed himself up with his good arm. Blood dripped from his mouth. His body screamed with pain. No. He attacked. Caven knocked him down. He got up again. Caven broke to more of his ribs. He got up again. The crowd fell silent. They had expected the human to collapse, to beg for mercy, to accept his inferior nature. Instead, he kept fighting. He fought with his broken arm dangling useless at his side. He fought when he could no longer stand properly, attacking from the ground. He used techniques so wild and unexpected that Caven's perfect forms could not predict them. He was losing. Everyone knew it. But he would not stop. "Why do you keep getting up?" Caven demanded. Frustration cracked his cold composure. "You cannot win. Just stay down." Ethan spat blood onto the arena floor. "Because she is watching, and I will not let her see me quit." Something changed in the arena then. The nobles leaned forward. Even those who hated humans felt something stir in their ancient hearts. Something they had not felt in centuries. Admiration CA, Evan attacked again, expecting the wounded human to do the sensible thing and defend. Instead, Ethan surged forward, straight into the blow. Caven's fist connected with his shoulder, but Ethan kept moving. Too close for the Lord's perfect techniques, his forehead slammed into Caven's nose. The crack echoed through the silent arena. Lord Caven stumbled back, silver blood streaming down his face. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone had landed a blow he had not allowed. The bell rang. "The trial is complete," the judge announced. "The human has passed." The arena erupted. Some voices were angry, demanding a rematch. Others were amazed, still processing what they had witnessed. But above it all, Ethan heard one voice calling his name. Alendra ran across the arena and threw herself into his arms. She was crying and laughing at the same time. "Impossible. Stubborn, wonderful human," she said. "I love you. I love you too," he managed to say before his legs finally gave out. The conjunction occurred that evening. The 3 moons aligned in the sky for the first time in 1,000 years, forming a perfect triangle of silver light. In the great temple of the Velshan, Ethan and Alendra stood before the Emperor and the Empire and were bound. Together in the ancient rites, he was still bandaged and broken. She did not care. When they spoke their vows, her voice was steady and clear and full of joy. The marriage changed everything. Humanity, proven something the galaxy could not ignore. That passion was not weakness. That brief lives could shine bright enough to humble ancient powers. That the youngest species in the stars carried something the old races had lost along the way. Within a year, the Velshan-Human Alliance became the strongest partnership in known space. Alindra served as ambassador between 2 worlds, teaching her people to feel again while learning from humans how to hope. Ethan stood beside her through it all. He learned that forever was not about how long you lived. It was about how deeply you loved. And across the galaxy, other species began to whisper about the humans. Not with contempt anymore, with wonder. Because in the end, Commander Ethan Cole had not won a princess through strength or wealth or ancient bloodlines. He had won her the only way a human could, by being foolish enough to love without limits, and brave enough to say it out loud.